Namaste, my friends. Welcome to Jack Colley's Black Book. We're on episode number 46. And we're going to continue to talk about the Christmas album that I wrote that you can listen to. So again, another act of shameless promotion that we're doing here. But I want to first, once again, I want to start with Halloween because it's Halloween in just a few days here. So we're almost in the middle of autumn. It's almost Halloween. I had a friend, her name is Sammy. She put a quote on the social media platform that we're both a part of. And her quote said, "Autumn shows us how beautiful it is to let things go." And when I saw that quote, I thought she has a much nicer way of talking about the symbolism behind autumn than I do. But I'm still going to continue with my way. I just thought, though, that was a much nicer way of saying what I'm going to say, which is autumn shows us how beautiful it is to let things go. I mean, her way is more positive because I think in letting go of something, it maybe leaves your arms open for something new. There's still the things that you can hold on to and the things that you have around you. It's a much nicer image. But if you watch the first several episodes of Jack Colley's Black Book, where I talk about how seasons or how different stories have different meanings in different seasons and how stories grow and how they develop in our lives because they go through they go through death, they go through being buried for a while, then they may go through rebirth, and they go through that season of maintenance, which is summer. So that's in the first few episodes where I kind of draw this parallel between the four seasons and how stories develop in our lives. But at the beginning of the album, and this is Jeanette and Isabella, A Christmas Love Story. At the beginning of the album, it starts out mid-sentence with this radio voice, and I'm just kind of narrating things. And it kind of jumps in with again and again, 10,000 different ways for every star and every light on every tree. And I wanted to start mid-sentence because the beginning of the sentence is at the end of the album. So the whole album plays, and if you have it on loop, the sentence gets completed and the album starts over. And I thought that this was really important, not only because of the seasons, but this perpetual cycle of life and death that we seem to be a part of. And the seasons remind us of this, the different stages of a butterfly developing, a caterpillar into a chrysalis, into a butterfly, and then into the maintenance. And you have all of this beautiful imagery that is found so prevalent in the holidays, particularly in the Christmas story. So I want to take some time and talk about Christmas lights. And so Halloween, I'll get to Christmas lights in a minute. So Halloween in the middle of autumn, Halloween is this celebration of death. It's this celebration that death is coming. And we have autumn, which is perpetual dying. You've got the leaves on the trees that as the life leaves the leaves on the tree, which is the green, and the chloroplast and all of that, as they die out, the other colors of the leaves begin to show because the life is leaving the tree. We're surrounded by death. I mean, the flowers are dying. Even the mums this time of year are starting to go away. It's perpetually dying, this process of dying and preparing for winter. And that to me is what Halloween is. And if you start out with this stark imagery of Halloween and death, not only does it remind you of your limited time, but it also reminds you that the purpose of your death is to make room for more life. The purpose of your death is to make space. The purpose of your death is to give your body back to the earth and allow it to be developed into new life. And so to me, there's this certain beauty, even in the darkness of autumn, that I really like to think about. But this Christmas lights, I guess, is where I was going with this. So what's interesting to me is winter. So autumn is this perpetual death. So we're going to celebrate death in just a few days here with Halloween. And autumn, this perpetual death, is leading to winter. What I find fascinating about the timing of Christmas is that winter starts officially, scientifically, winter starts at the winter solstice, which is right around December 20 or 21. And then, of course, we celebrate Christmas on December 25th, also December 24th and 25th. And what's fascinating to me is as soon as death hits, which is the winter solstice, right around December 20 to 21, we only have 3 or 4 days. Again, think about 3 days. There's a lot of symbolism with the number 3. There's 3 days before we already have the first holiday, the first reminder that winter is not going to last, death is not going to last, new life will come into the earth. And in this case, we have this new life in the form of the infant, the baby Jesus. And so I want to take just a little bit of time and talk about the lights. So to me, the lights represent Christ, not necessarily Jesus, but Christ. In my way of thinking, Jesus and Christ are not synonymous. Christ is not Jesus's last name. Jesus is the Christ. The Christ came to us through Jesus. That's the way I would interpret that. And I look at Christ as being similar to Brahman in Hindu, which is the everything. It's the God, it's the thing that is flowing through everything, and the thing that everything is flowing into. I would consider that to be not only Brahman, but also the Christ. In Taoism, we would call that the great integrity, like the final say, like this is the big picture, this is everything. It's the great integrity is what we're talking about, which is Christ. So we have this holiday where Christmas lights were used to symbolize the Christ. And so I want people to start thinking about the stars in the sky each night. I want people to look at Christmas lights and to see that they represent Christ. I want my Hindu friends, my Muslim friends, my Buddhist friends, I want them to look at Christmas lights and realize that, okay, in Christianity, we may call that the Christ, but you may call it the Brahman, you may call it the essence of the Buddha, you may call it the great integrity. You can call it all of those things, but the beauty of it is that it reminds us that there's a lot more to us. Now, what's interesting to me about the Christian version of the Christ coming into being, or God coming into the incarnation of the infant, the Jesus infant, is Christianity has this way of sometimes putting little twists on things that have been around for thousands and thousands of years before Christianity. So in Hinduism, we have this idea of an avatar, not the movie Avatar, but an avatar, which is when humanity needs help, when humanity needs to be saved from evil, or we need to be shown how something works, when we need to have hope, an avatar comes into existence, which is a part, I think I can say it that way, it's a part of all that there is, a part of Brahman incarnates or becomes an avatar. And of course, in the Hindu religion, there's, I think it's something like 300,000 or 30,000. They consider different gods and goddesses, or, interpretations of the one God, which is Brahman. And what's interesting to me is that in Christianity, this avatar shows up as an infant on Christmas, and we celebrate that on Christmas. That the incarnation of God does not just burst onto the earth, but comes in the form of an infant. And I just love that image that this little baby is the incarnation of God, is the avatar that is going to save people, that is going to tell us what we need to know. And who's to say? I mean, I realize that Christianity would say that Jesus was the only incarnation of God. I know that in Islam, my friends would say that, the Prophet Muhammad and the Quran are the final messages of God. And I don't know, to me, in those two particular traditions, I don't know, sometimes I think there's a little bit of, I don't know, it just doesn't sit exactly well with me for any individual to say, oh, we have the final say, we understand, because who's to say? I mean, famous last words of humanity, right? I mean, we'll see. But so the album opens up with the winter scene. And so what I want to do, I'm going to show you this picture here. And what I want to read the first verse. So we have all of these Christmas lights, 5 days, 3 to 5 days into winter. We have all of these Christmas lights lit that are reminding us of Christ, the essence of God. And we are given hope that spring will come through the death of winter, through the season of death, which is winter. And so the album opens up with this verse. And I think this particular song, which is called In the Bleak Midwinter, I don't believe I changed many of the words. I did change some of the words to kind of better fit the narrative that I wanted to state in this particular, for the Christmas album. But anyway, here's the first verse. In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water was like stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow on snow, in the bleak midwinter, long, so long ago. And I absolutely love that setting. I look at pictures like this, and even though I'm going to be sick of this image probably right around the beginning of February, I love snow on the holidays, but I do get tired of it pretty quickly. Although I've learned to appreciate it a little bit longer, given now that I have more of these symbolic ways of looking at winter, because winter can be a time of reflection, a time of just figuring out what do we want to rebirth, what do we want to come back. Winter can be that type of just reflective season, and we can make it that. But if you've ever lived in Michigan or Minnesota or Canada, and you've experienced, or another country, and you've experienced some of these cold, hard winters, this opening scene. And even though Bring a Torch, Jeanette, Isabella, in the Bleak Midwinter, this particular Christmas carol, even though it doesn't, I don't think that there was snow, and I don't think that it was cold where baby Jesus was born. I'm not positive about that, but I don't think so. It sets the scene for the symbolic season that Jesus burst into, which was a season of death. And if you look at the history of the people around Jesus at that time, there was a lot of death. It was perpetual dying. It was oppression of people. It was spiritual slavery and actual slavery. It was anyway. Look up the history of that. But the scene is the bleak midwinter. That's where it starts. And I love the line, "Earth stood hard as iron." So that is how Earth is. And in Michigan, if you try to dig into the ground in February, you know that you put the shovel into the ground, it does not sink. I mean, it is hard as iron, and it's very difficult to even chip away at the earth. And then I like this phrase too, the water was like stone. Same thing. If you go ice fishing, if you go ice skating and it's in the frozen water, the frozen pond, it really is like a stone. It's like a rock. Ice can get quite hard. And even the next line, snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow on snow. That can sometimes be Michigan as well. It's like we get snow, we just clear off our driveways, then we get more snow, and it's snow on snow and snow on snow. So it sets up this scene. So this is the world that I'm going to continue to talk about on my Christmas album called Jeanette and Isabella, A Christmas Love Story. Namaste, my friends.